Well, since we have a new meta and I'm trying to do this whole YouTuber thing, we got to do a tier list predictions video. And I decided instead of going one by one through all of the decks and explaining where I'm putting them on the tier list, I just went ahead and threw everything together right now. A couple of disclaimers. One, these are ordered from S and A. And then beyond A tier, this is all unordered. This is like this general band of power level for these decks. And then in the NA, non-applicable, this is everything that I have absolutely no clue whatsoever. I just have literally never seen them at all. So these could be good, these could be bad. I have no idea. Then we also have the three captains that are coming out in the ST10, Starter Deck 10, and those I'm not tiering right now either. So we'll go through these. Before you get your feelings hurt with the placement of any of these characters, just keep in mind, this was my tier list predictions for the OP-03 3.5 meta, like the post-restrict list coming out. And as you can see, this was a mistake. So take everything in this video with a grain of salt. My lists are whack. This is a predictions video for a reason. I'm going to talk through some of my logic for this OP-04 list that I'm about to show. But just keep in the back of your mind, this is my 3.5 meta analysis. So I'm prone to being wrong. So just disclaimer. All right, so with all my disclaimers out of the way, let's hop right into this list. So right off the bat, I hate to say it, but I think Whitebeard is still the best deck in the format. I could just be overcompensating for my blunder on his placement in my tier list predictions in OPO 3.5, but he is still insanely good. I think we're now running more Rush Luffy. I think 4 Rush Luffy is standard, but like, there was like a Strawbeard variant that just won in OP-05, and I don't see this deck going away. 6K leader, so many good, powerful tools. And if we look at the other decks that I have here in the top 8, he kind of goes even or wins against most of these. I think he goes. I think he still wins the yellow matchup. I think he goes even with Rebecca. I think he goes even with Law. I think he slightly loses to Dofi, but it's like a 55-45 matchup, so basically even. I think he wins against Zoro. I think he wins against Crocodile. I think he wins against Queen. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, we have one slightly losing matchup, arguably 2 slightly losing matchups. We have 3 to 4 even matchups, and we're winning 3 matchups. Like, he could be the best deck in the game still. That's where I'm predicting he falls. Also, he's relatively easy to play compared to the other decks on our top 8 here. So that's another thing that I think will push him to this S class in the top deck. Number 2, we have Katakuri. Now, Katakuri has a few new tools. The big ones are being able to have Beige. Beige is a 2K yellow counter with the trigger that says you just can't attack this turn. So that double attack Luffy, yeah, good luck. You're not swinging at it. You're not swinging at me. You're not going to push your game. You also have access now to a 4 cost 5,000 power Sanji blocker, which can be played off trigger with counter. So this is giving us a tool that cannot be cheaply dealt with as a blocker. We also get the 9 cost Yamato, which is a really weird thing, but it kind of acts as a reliable removal. I don't know why, it just works. Oftentimes I'll have like a board full of big bodies, and then I just drop another big body. I gain a life, I pop a small blocker, and then I can just swing for game. It seems to help with the mirror and the Law matchup really well. And then again, looking at these matchups, we slightly lose to Whitebeard. We destroy Rebecca. Rebecca just gets absolutely crapped on. I think we lose to Law, but I think we win against Doflamingo. We win against Zoro. We win against Crocodile. We win against Queen. So we have maybe one or two bad matchups, and the rest we do pretty well against. So I think Katakuri is a very strong deck. The other thing we gain is the vanillas, which ironically, just being able to play a 5/7 or a 6/8 on curve is just so strong. So for those reasons, also, again, another thing that's going in favor for Katakuri is he's just simply easier to play than the rest of these decks below it. And I think that alone is enough to carry in a large-scale regional event. And when I am talking about these tiers, I am talking about how would this perform at the highest level, which would be like a Treasure Cup or a regional type event. Moving on, we have Rebecca. Rebecca is real. She is a threat. She has cards like Orlumbus and Kairos and Leo, and it just allows her to control the board so well. And with the Colosseum card being able to give pseudo rush to all the Dressrosa type cards, she is a real menace. Also getting access to Red Rock, 3000 Worlds. I can't think of the name of the new Dressrosa type removal, but she has access to so much removal and keeps boards clean. With Orlumbus, she's hitting up to 5s, so she just craps on Law. Without Orlumbus, she's hitting all 1s, and I think Zoro is going to be taking on a little bit more low to the ground presence, so she just absolutely craps on Zoro too. And then having access to King Kong Gun and a Luffy that has a built-in restand, you can potentially do a double attack with 13,000 power twice, like swing twice, which just closes out so many games. Like there's so many times where I'm down to just a Luffy, and then I have like 2 King Kong guns in hand. I go down to my last life. They have 2, and then I just swing for like 16 twice. Double attack, and it's so dumb. She also has a free +1 to kind of keep that hand advantage up. So yeah, overall just a really solid leader, and a really good deck around. The caveat to Rebecca is she is one of the harder decks to play. Because the leader cannot attack, so you really have to manage your resources well. You also need to manage things like Orlumbus that do the cost reduction for you consistently, and you want to be able to play in a way that you're able to plus off of your ability every turn, which means that you do have to understand when to counter out and how to keep that hand at like the sweet spot of like 6 cards in hand. But yeah, she's a really good card, a really good leader, really good deck. I think she's going to do really well. Next, we have Law. Law is basically the same Law that we know and love from OP-02. The only things that we have added to Law overall are we are now running probably more of the 2-cost Sanji counter for a little bit of help in the Rebecca matchup. Sometimes Rebecca wants to deal with our board first and then go before starting Tech Life. So playing Sanji gives us a little bit more pressure into their life in the early game, which can be very beneficial. But yeah, not much to say here. Law just does really well. It does what Law does. And because we are in a grindier game, having a bunch of blockers and being able to constantly build up hand advantage is really strong. Because I do feel like overall the metagame is slightly slower, which means Law just feels better for some reason. He just grinds well, right? So I think Law is probably here. After Law, I have Doflamingo, and I have these a tier separate because I feel like these 4 here feel better more often. And I feel like they are just like a little bit above these here, but they are still in this order, like top 8 decks. So it is kind of an artificial removal. It's just I wanted to have an even number between S and A. And these guys I don't really care as much about, because once you start getting into like 9 and 10th, you're not really going to see a lot of representation in top 16s, right? It's just how it works out. But Green Purple Doflamingo has access to the green film engine as well as the purple film engine. Both have a lot of good things going for it, with like you have the Gran Turismo with the +2. It's basically a win attacking, draw 2 cards, but you're minusing 2 Dawn, so you don't really want to use that until you're already at 10. You have access to 10 cost Dofi, which just wins games. Sometimes you drop that, you keep 3 cards of your opponent's frozen. If they don't have rush, they're just not really attacking next turn. They have to establish a body, and then now you have a 10,000 power body to deal with whatever thing that they had rested, which kind of just puts them on a timer. You also have access to things like playing 7 cost Luffy, which is a great card. And then being able to cheat out 4 cost Uta, which the 4 cost Uta blocker can on block -1 Dawn to rest a 5 cost. So that's like better than Punk Gibson. Speaking of which, since Dofi's ability restands 2 Dawn at the end of your turn, you always have that 2 Dawn up for your Punk Gibson. You can also play Thunder Bagua. You can play Hell's Judgment. You can play all of the counter events that can be really, really strong. So Dofi is like a very solid control deck. I think it's like one of our first like really truly control decks, and I'm here for it. It's a great deck. I cannot pilot Dofi well, but my friends can pilot it really well, and they enjoy it. So good for them. Next, Whitebeard's position was the thing that aged bad in OPO 3.5. Zoro, as the 6th best deck in the format, might be the thing that ages poorly in OPO 4. But this is where I have him. My logic here is I think Zoro just kind of loses to Whitebeard. It loses to Katakuri. It loses to Rebecca. It loses to Dofi. It probably wins into Crocodile and Queen. And depending on the variant, it's probably a 50-50 with Law. So I just feel like he loses to a lot of the other decks that are meta right now. I don't think he necessarily has lowered at all in power level, but he just doesn't really gain much either. So I think for those reasons he is here. But I could be proven wrong. If there is a deck to have innovation, it is Zoro. There are a lot of good red cards, and Zoro can really kind of utilize everything. So he might move up. We'll see. For number 7, we have Mono Blue Crocodile. Mono Blue Crocodile is probably one of my favorite decks to play right now. It just feels so nice, bottom decking absolutely everything they want to play. I'm running like four 3,000 Worlds, four Red Rock, the Sentomoro package. The early game sucks, but once you get to that late game and you just bottom deck absolutely everything, and you're establishing multiple Mihawks and then Kaidos, and then like you get to a point where it just feels unwinnable, and it really snowballs out of control in the late game. So, yeah, really good deck. I think some of the weaknesses it has is you could potentially rush it down with Whitebeard. Like if you just start getting like multiple Luffy's swinging 6 over and over and over again. He doesn't have enough room for a lot of 2Ks, and its blockers are on the weaker side. So that can be problematic. And it has a lot of blockers, but sometimes Katakuri can overwhelm it. And if you are only seeing your top end, because you do play a lot of top end, you could be in trouble against other decks that have really good early game. But if you survive to that late game and then you just have everything removed and then you're establishing really big bodies, it feels unwinnable sometimes. Queen, I have as the last of my A tier. Queen is basically, it gets the removal aspect that Crocodile gets, as well as being able to just continuously recover life and be super annoying by having a million blockers. I think Queen is going to be very prevalent early on because there's a lot of hype around this deck. I think we're gonna see people cook with it, and I'm here for it. It's a fun deck. It's the thing that I think is going to hold Queen back more than anything is the fact that this deck's going to go to time a lot, and the end game procedures kind of suck sometimes. So we'll see. We'll see how Queen does. So now that we're out of the top 8 and we're in B tier, these decks I don't know a ton about. I don't, and when I say I don't know a ton, I don't know a ton about how they play out in this metagame. I feel like Dofi, Kid, Yamato, and Ace, these are all just like generically really strong. They have a lot of good tools, lots of good searchers, lots of good events, lots of they have a lot of things going for them. And I don't think they'll ever be, they might. The power creep's a real thing, but they don't feel bad. But I don't know how they fit in the overall picture enough to be able to really say, oh yeah, these guys are higher or lower, or like how they are relative to each other. Same with Magellan. Magellan, I feel like in a game where you have a lot more late game, Magellan slowly starts to feel better and better. So we might see some more Magellan innovations and some more stuff come out of this. Blurple Kaido. I've been playing a little bit of Blurple Kaido, and it feels really strong. You have access to the 10-cost Kaido. You have some of the best ramp in the game. The blue and purple don't really help each other much. Like, there's not really correlation between the two. But the strength of being able to draw 2, trash 1 with Queen, King's ability, and then being able to just continuously ramp up, as well as having access to 3,000 Worlds, Red Rock, having a searcher for some consistency. All of these things just kind of make it to where it just feels better. Only time will tell how far the deck can really go, but I think with a really good pilot and somebody that's really focused on trying to make this deck work, they'll do it. It's good. It's just I don't know how it is relative to the rest of this band, and I don't think it's better than any of these up here. Isho, same thing. Isho has a lot of good tools. I mean, you've got 5-cost Law, 5-cost Sabo, 5-cost. You can even play the X Drakes. There's a lot of good green and black cards, but they don't necessarily work together. Their synergies are not the best, because green, most of green stuff is rested, and then black is just destroy based on costs, usually at a cost of discarding something. So there is something to say green has a lot of good generic hand recovery. You have Bonnie once per turn, rest, add card to hand, so that can give some level of hand advantage back to Isho when discarding for the black events. But I just feel like it kind of clashes a little bit, feels a little bit clunky to play right now. I think in the future, this is one of those cards that's going to be really, really good in the future, because it just gets a few extra cards to support, and all of a sudden it's busted. Let's see here. Rob Lucci, double swings are strong. I think this is the best black leader, mono black leader, I think. Obviously, Rebecca is the best black leader overall, but the double swing is just really good. But I don't know where it falls in this tier. Going on to C, I have Vivi. Vivi does make the cut. Blue and red are generically two of the best colors. You do get to draw and you do get to give something rush for the cost of two, but that's a very hefty cost to pay to give something rush. Overall, the Alabasta engine is just kind of underwhelming. Pell is good, Chaka is good, but then like as you start running more of those, you're needing to combo with a lot of pieces because really Pell doesn't get good until you have Chaka, and Chaka does only gets really half of its ability if it's just Chaka. Like because the minus 3,000 and then pop something of zero cost doesn't really come up that often. Where you already have something at zero cost, so you kind of have to minus something to pop it, and then you're really only popping a 3K. But anyway, so there's a little bit more versatility there. But overall, I think VV is just a little underwhelming. It is a few really good cards away from being better. Like I can see this in the future moving up into more relevance if it just got like one or two really good tools. But right now we're in C tier. Blurple Crocodile. Blurple Crocodile feels like it's so good. It has so many synergies with the Brokeworks purple and blue, but then it just dies because I feel like I always get to the late game and then it just kind of falls off. And the same thing I feel with yellow purple Crocodile. These may both be way better than they are. I could just be bad at piloting the Baroqueworks purple engine. It just kind of feels a little clunky to me, but the 8 cost Crocodile being able to recover a life and then cycle through your cards is really strong. And I think for that reason alone, these two should be considered, especially if you like the Baroqueworks cards. My friend is a huge fan of Miss All Sunday, aka Robin, and with the purple yellow Crocodile, you get to play 8 copies of Miss All Sunday, so that's kind of cool. But yeah. Again, this is all unordered, so I don't know which ones are stronger, which ones are weaker. These are just the bottom of what I would consider like viable decks. And then we have Luffy. Luffy is just a very basic, very generic ability. But sometimes when you have a generic ability, you become a blank canvas for a very strong set of cards. And that is what Luffy is to red. He is a blank canvas with basically 11 on a turn. And he has a really strong pool of cards to pull from. And I think because of that alone, he's able to sit still in relevancy. And then Nami has an alternative win condition. She gets a few extra tools, such as a searcher in OP-04, which just makes her slightly more consistent. But at the end of the day, it's still a little hard to pull off. Smoker, generic black. Black still has a lot of really good cards. Gets a few more. Like you can splash in a couple of Luffys in here to make it a little bit more aggro in the late game. But still just a little lackluster. And then Big Mom. Big Mom, I feel like has potential to be good, but it just is strictly outclassed by the other yellow decks. Like if you want to play the 10 cost Big Mom, which is always a bomb, just play Katakuri. Because a lot of times she just feels like a less pressure Katakuri. And I think that is fine. She actually might be here. I'm officially moving her to this band. She is in the B tier. She's somewhere at this power level. And I could be wrong about these. Again, more confident about the top 8, less confident about at the further down you go. All of these are either not relevant at all. Like Iceberg, for example, I don't see him being relevant at all. But some of these I might just not know. I might just be ignorant, and I apologize for that. But I don't really have a good way of understanding how these decks truly fit into the meta. It just starts becoming a stretch. Anything beyond these. If I were to predict where these go when ST10 comes out, I'm going to place Luffy in S, Law in A, and
Kid in B. I think all of them are meta relevant, but Luffy and Law are the two better ones. And I think Luffy, until the next set is OP-05, is clearly a level above Law. And then I think Law goes up to S as soon as we go to OP-05. Those are just my thoughts and opinions. Comment down below how much of an idiot I am for my thoughts and opinions. And I will see you next time.